Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. I hit send on the message before I could think. I am Claire 30, and that click still makes me cringe. On the screen it sat bright and cheerful. Hi, I'm planning a surprise dinner for us three, can you come? I watched the typing bubble appear and felt my chest tighten. Her reply came fast, way too fast for my nerves. Of course, I've waited a long time for this. I told myself that sounded sweet, not creepy. Back then I loved that word, waited. It made everything feel overdue. Now I hear it and think about traps. From the bathroom, I heard the shower shut off. I locked my phone and shoved it under a pillow. My heart thudded like I had just cheated, which in a way I had. Not with another person, but with a plan I knew he would hate. I told myself it was for his own good, and that lie felt almost kind. He walked in, towel around his waist, hair dripping everywhere. You still up for date night? He asked, rubbing his neck. Yeah, I made a reservation, I answered, trying to sound casual. That word caught his attention, like it always did. A reservation. His brow lifted a little and my stomach flipped. He hates crowded places, hates surprises, hates fuss. I knew all that and I still pushed ahead. It's somewhere quiet, nothing crazy, I just wanted something nice. He stared for a second, then nodded once. Okay, sure, date night sounds good, he said, and I exhaled too soon. On the drive, he held my hand on the console. Streetlights cut across his face in sharp pieces. I studied his profile and tried to read his mood. You nervous? I asked, faking a light tone. About dinner with my wife? No, he answered, though his jaw tightened. That little twitch should have stopped me right there. Instead, I leaned in harder, like an idiot on a mission. Have you ever thought about, seeing your family again? His fingers slipped from mine and dropped to his lap. Why are you asking that now? His voice lost all warmth. I shrugged and stared out the windshield, buying seconds. I don't know, it just feels sad sometimes, I said. You're close to your dad, I'm not close to anyone, he muttered. That sentence landed between us like a brick. I thought closeness was something you built, not something you lost forever. If they apologized or something, would you listen? I pushed. He let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. If big if and no, probably not, he answered. He flexed his hands on his jeans like they itched. Can we not do this tonight? He added, and I nodded, already lying. We pulled into the lot and my chest buzzed. I had picked the place on purpose, neutral ground. Not his favorite spot, not a family restaurant, nothing loaded. Looks nice, he said, squinting at the entrance. I told myself that counted as a good sign and kept walking. At the host stand, I almost blew everything immediately. Reservation for 3, I blurted, then froze. He turned his head so fast I heard his neck pop. 3, his eyes narrowed and my pulse roared. I forced a laugh that sounded wrong. Sorry, I meant 2. The host looked from me to him, then back again. 2, got it, she replied, grabbing menus and moving ahead. I felt heat crawl up my neck like a warning. He watched me a second longer, then followed silently. I knew I had rattled him even before she seated us. At the table there were 2 menus and 3 glasses. That stupid third glass felt like a spotlight. I tried to pretend it meant nothing, just a set-up detail. He reached for his water and paused, eyes on the extra glass. You sure it's just us? He asked, fingers resting on the rim. Yeah, just us, I answered, hating how fast it came out. He leaned back, studying my face like I was a stranger. You're doing the weird voice, he said, half joking. What weird voice? I tried to smile, but my cheek twitched. The one you use when you hide something, he replied, and the air tightened. I opened my menu just to give my hands a job. The words blurred because I was not actually reading. This was supposed to be the good part, the reunion. I pictured them hugging, crying, maybe laughing through it. That fantasy kept me from hearing the footsteps behind him. A hand landed lightly on his shoulder. My husband went rigid like someone had flipped a switch. Hi, sweetheart, a woman's voice said, smooth and bright. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. He did not turn around right away, and that delay scared me. When he finally looked back, his eyes looked dead. Not shocked, not angry yet, just emptied out. She was there, exactly like her photos, except more polished. Her smile widened when she saw his expression, like she enjoyed it. Claire invited me, such a lovely surprise, she said, and my throat closed. He shifted his gaze to me, slow and deliberate. What did you do? His voice sounded thin and sharp. I opened my mouth, but nothing coherent came out. I think I said something about love and healing. Whatever it was, his eyes flinched like I had slapped him. You went behind my back and called her. He spoke quietly, but every syllable hit hard. You said you wanted us happy, I whispered, leaning toward him. This is not happiness, he answered, pushing his chair back. The legs scraped the floor, loud enough to make people stare. He stood up, hands shaking, breathing weird through his nose. For a second I thought he might yell or cry. Instead he stepped closer, bent down near my ear. You have no idea what you just did, he whispered. Then he walked away, straight through the room, toward the door. I half rose from my seat, then froze again. Everyone around us pretended not to look, which felt worse. His mother slid smoothly into his empty chair across from me. She folded her hands and tilted her head, still smiling. Don't worry, she said, like this was nothing. He always overreacts first. I caught up to him beside the car. He already had the door open and one foot inside. Please wait, I blurted, fingers catching his jacket sleeve. He turned his head just enough to look at my hand. Let go before I say something I regret, he muttered, and my stomach dropped. I pulled my hand back like I had touched a burner. He shut the door in one hard motion and started the engine. For a second I thought he would leave me there alone. Instead he leaned across, pushed the passenger door open, and stared ahead. Get in if you're coming, he said, voice flat and strange. I climbed in because walking away felt worse than his silence. The drive out of the lot felt longer than the whole day. His knuckles pressed white against the wheel, every change of lane too sharp. Can you please talk to me? I asked, barely above a whisper. He let out a rough breath that sounded closer to a growl. You ambushed me with her, he said, eyes locked on the road. I thought you might want closure, I answered, hating how weak it sounded. You thought you knew better than me about my own life, he snapped. That line hit harder than any shout could have landed. I shut my mouth because I finally heard how reckless I was. We hit a red light and the car lurched to a stop. He rested his forehead on the wheel for a second. I told you there were reasons I stayed away, he said quietly. You never told me what they were, I pushed, because I still believed I was owed answers. He laughed once, a humorless sound that felt like a warning. If I didn't tell you, maybe that should mean something, he said. So I'm supposed to just accept it forever, I shot back. Yes, he answered instantly, no hesitation, no softening. The light changed and he pulled forward without checking my reaction. That yes felt like a door slammed in my face. We reached the apartment and he parked in his usual spot. The engine cut off, but the tension stayed just as loud. He unbuckled, grabbed his phone, and got out without looking at me. I followed him inside because I could not handle that gap. In the hallway he stopped so fast I nearly ran into him. Do not invite her anywhere ever again, he said without turning. I thought tonight might help both of you, I answered, fingers twisting my ring. It helped her, he said, finally facing me with tired eyes. She wanted a show, you gave her front row seats. Then he walked to the living room and dropped onto the couch. He tapped his screen a few times with quick, sharp movements. I hovered near the doorway, unsure if I had permission to breathe. Are you blocking her again? I asked, voice shaking around the words. She found a way through before, she will find one again. The way he said again made my skin crawl with questions I could not ask. His phone buzzed almost immediately, vibrating against his leg nonstop. He stared at the notifications, jaw tight, shoulders hunched like he braced for impact. Is that her? I asked, even though I already knew it was. He clicked the side button, screen going dark, and set it face down. I am done for tonight, he said, eyes fixed on the ceiling. I stood there like a guest in my own home. I'll make some tea, I muttered, because I needed to do something. No, he cut in, barely looking at me, I just need space. The word space sliced through all my hopeful arguments in one move. I nodded and walked to our bedroom feeling like I had been benched. The moment I sat on the edge of the bed, my phone lit up. Unknown number, long message preview, too many exclamation points in one line. I opened it before my brain could vote on it. Hi dear, I'm so sorry about tonight, he always reacts like that. My pulse jumped because she was already rewriting what happened. More messages stacked one after another without pause. You did the right thing bringing us together. He has always twisted things to make me look bad. You must feel very confused. I can explain everything if you let me. Every sentence felt like bait tossed straight at my guilt. I knew I should have muted the conversation right then. Instead, I typed back 3 reckless words. He is devastated. Her answer popped up almost before I hit send. He likes to perform pain, it keeps people loyal to him. My face burned hot, part anger, part shame at even reading that. Please don't call his feelings fake, I replied, fingers trembling against the screen. I raised him, I know him better than anyone, she wrote. If you stay married to him, you'll see what I mean. That last line sat there like a dare I could not ignore. From the living room, I heard the couch springs shift. Footsteps approached down the hall with slow, heavy beats. I locked my phone and dropped it beside me on the bed. He stopped in the doorway, eyes puffy, expression unreadable. Are you texting her? He asked, voice low but razor sharp. I hesitated just long enough to give myself away. She reached out after you left, she thinks tonight was progress. He walked in and held his hand out for my phone. I placed it in his palm, heart pounding so loud I heard it. He scrolled through the thread, reading every line in silence. When he reached her last message, his mouth twisted. She told you I fake pain, he said, looking straight at me. I swallowed hard, unable to hold his gaze for long. I don't believe that, I managed, though a tiny doubtful piece lingered. That tiny piece is exactly what she wanted, he answered, dropping the phone on the bed. He stepped back, rubbing his forehead like he fought off a migraine. This is why I cut her out the first time, he said. There it was, that phrase that hinted at something much bigger. I waited for more, hungry for details, desperate to justify myself somehow. He only shook his head like the words got stuck in his throat. I'm sleeping out here tonight, he said, turning toward the hallway. You don't have to, I started, reaching toward him on instinct. He lifted a hand, stopping me mid-step without even touching me. I can't be near you right now and stay calm. Hearing that from him scared me more than any shout would have. He walked away and the apartment felt uneven without his presence. I listened as he grabbed a blanket and dropped onto the couch. No television, no music, just the occasional shift of fabric. I lay down in our bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. The space beside me stayed cold and careful, like it belonged to someone else. Sleep would not come, so my brain hunted for comfort. I picked up my laptop and opened a browser out of habit. My fingers hovered over the keys before finally starting to type. I searched for stories about adults who cut off their parents. Page after page loaded with pain I had never really believed existed. Every article told me the same quiet warning in different words. People do not walk away from parents for nothing. I had always assumed there were 2 equal sides to every conflict. Now I saw that some sides came with permanent scars and safety plans. That night I realized I had walked straight into something I did not understand. His blanket lay folded on the couch when I woke up. No shoes near the door, no keys on the hook. My first thought was stupidly dramatic. He left. My second thought was worse, what if this time he meant it? I found a short message on the counter beside his mug. Going in early, we'll talk later. Nothing else, no heart, no nickname, nothing we usually used. It read like a note between coworkers, not people in love. I stared at it until the letters started to blur. My phone buzzed on the table like it had been waiting. Unknown number again, same tone, same long paragraph style. I hope he calmed down, men can be so emotional. I did not need to check who it was to know. My thumb hovered over block, then slid to open instead. You must have questions about him, she wrote, hitting exactly where I hurt. I always hoped his future wife would want the truth. The truth, that word hooked me harder than I want to admit. You didn't see the things he did growing up. That line pushed some dark button I did not know I had. I typed out 3 different replies and erased them. Finally, I sent the weakest possible thing. What things? Dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Hard to explain over text. Has he ever mentioned the police? She wrote. My chest went cold reading that. Not dramatic cold, more like elevator suddenly dropping 1 floor. He never talked about getting in trouble, not once, not vaguely. Police, I answered, hands clumsy on the screen. Ask him about the night he almost ruined our family, came back. I locked my phone and tossed it onto the couch. For a second, I actually considered never picking it up again. You know that moment when your brain splits down the middle? One side screaming, "This is none of your business." The other side whispering, "Then why are you married to him?" I paced the living room, trying to talk myself down. He deserved privacy, he deserved loyalty after what I had done. But I kept circling the same awful thought. If there was some violent history, shouldn't I know? The question itself felt like I was already betraying him. I opened my laptop because pretending I would work sounded honorable. My fingers did not care about honorable. They went straight to a search bar like they had their own plan. I typed his full name and the word arrest. Then I stared at that word and almost hit delete. I did not delete it. Search results popped up in a mess of unrelated strangers. Wrong ages, different cities, random mugshots that were not him. I almost felt relieved enough to shut the laptop. Then I noticed a link with his exact middle initial. It was not some dramatic headline, nothing obvious or bold. Just a boring county records site with a tiny case number. My pulse stumbled as I clicked through the verification screens. I kept thinking, this is insane, this is so invasive. I kept going anyway because curiosity and fear had joined forces. The record finally loaded, plain and cold on the screen. His name, his birth year, a charge I did not expect at all. Assault on a family member. I actually said no out loud, alone in the room. There was a note about juvenile and diverted, and my brain spun. Nothing in that file explained context, only dry procedure words. Reported by female relative. Taken for evaluation. Released to parent. I stared at female relative and immediately pictured his mother making that call. To be fair, that was not the only version possible. Maybe she was afraid, maybe she protected someone. That is what I told myself in that moment. I wanted to be fair, to be reasonable, to be mature. At the same time, my stomach twisted imagining him hurting someone at home. I wish I could say I closed the laptop and waited. Waited for him to come home and tell me everything himself. Instead, I did something worse, something sneaky and strangely addictive. I opened our social media, went to his family section and clicked. His sister's profile sat there, private but still reachable. I hovered over the message button for a full minute. My heart pounded like I was about to flirt with someone. Which honestly is how wrong it felt. Finally, I typed a short, blunt line. "Hi, I'm your brother's wife, I need to ask about your mom." I expected silence or maybe polite distance. Her reply came less than 5 minutes later. "Please tell me you didn't let her into your life." My whole body went tight reading that. It sounded less like drama and more like emergency instructions. I answered faster than I should have. "She came to dinner, I organized it," he flipped out. Another message from her appeared almost instantly. "Oh my God, she got to you first." Those words, "first" and "got to you," made me feel like prey. "She told me there was some kind of incident," I wrote. My thumbs could barely keep up with my thoughts by then. "She mentioned the police, she said you'd understand." Typing that felt like handing his sister a grenade. I knew I was throwing him under the bus and I still hit send. This time there was a pause long enough to scare me. I stared at the chat window, waiting for the dots to move. They finally appeared with a burst of short texts. "Can we talk on the phone? This is not text material." My hand shook as I typed my number and hit send. The call came through almost immediately. I answered before the first ring finished. Her greeting sounded tired, not curious, not excited. "So you're the one who married him," she said. That the one landed heavy, like there had been others who ran. "I'm trying to understand what happened," I started, voice too tight. "You tried to fix him by dragging our mother in," she cut in. I flinched because hearing it laid out like that hurt. "I thought maybe they needed a chance to talk," I argued. "Yeah, she loves chances," she replied, dry and bitter, "to rewrite history." I sat down because my legs were starting to feel weird. "Did something really happen with the police?" I asked. Silence hummed on the other end for a long beat. "Yes," she answered finally, the word dropping like a weight. "That night is why he stopped calling her mom at all." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. You have to tell me if he hurt someone, I pushed. He defended someone, she replied, and that one phrase knocked the air out of me. Then why does that record say assault on a relative? I demanded. Because she reported it that way, came her answer, flat and furious. She did not give me a full play-by-play. Every time I asked for specifics, she pulled back. That part is his to tell, not mine, she insisted. What I can say is he was trying to protect a kid. When she said kid, her voice broke in a way that bothered me deeply. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, heart racing fast. Is that why he cut her off? I asked. That was the last straw, she replied, sounding older than her years. She lied to the cops about him and defended the man who started it. The word man there with that tone told me more than a paragraph could. I wanted to ask who that man was. I wanted to ask if he still walked free somewhere. Instead, I asked the one selfish thing clawing at me. Do you think I'm in danger with him? I whispered. No, she answered so fast it almost hurt. You're in danger from her. That answer rattled me more than any rumor about violence. Then why didn't he ever tell me any of this? I pushed. Because talking about it means reliving it, she replied softly. And because every time he shared with someone, they picked her side. Hearing that last part, I felt my face heat with shame. We wrapped up the call without a neat resolution. She refused to spill every detail, which frustrated me then. Looking back, I respect her more than I can say now. Before hanging up, she left me with a final warning. If she's texting you, she's already building a story against him. After the call, I just sat there and shook. My picture of him had cracked in 5 different directions. Part of me wanted to run to the living room and apologize. Another part wanted to march in and demand his version immediately. The worst part wanted to check 10 more websites for proof. I gave in to the worst part first. I went back to the county site and dug deeper. There were notes about no charges filed and case closed. No statement from him, nothing with his actual words. Just lines that turned my husband into a line item. I screenshot everything and saved it in a hidden folder. That action still makes me feel gross as I write this. I told myself it was just so I could show him later. Really, I wanted evidence that my confusion had a foundation. Something to point to when he asked why I no longer trusted completely. Hours vanished while I chased every tiny clue online. By afternoon, my brain buzzed like I had drunk 10 coffees. I knew more about the procedure than about his feelings. It was information, not understanding, and I confused the two. That mix is dangerous when you think you are being rational. The front door opened while I was still hunched over the laptop. I slammed it shut so fast the noise echoed down the hallway. Everything okay? He asked from the doorway, dropping his bag. Yeah, I answered too quickly, palms suddenly damp. He studied my face like he could see the search history in my eyes. He walked closer, slower than usual, like he approached a stray dog. How was your day? He asked, voice cautious around the edges. Fine, worked, read some stuff, I muttered, staring at a spot on the floor. What kind of stuff? He asked, leaning his shoulder against the wall. That question sliced right through my flimsy casual act. I tried to dodge it with a weak joke. You know, internet rabbit holes, estranged families, light reading. His whole body stilled at the word estranged. You've been researching people like me, he said, and there was no humor. He looked less angry than resigned, which somehow felt worse. I'm trying to understand, I blurted, hands lifting in some useless gesture. I talked to your sister, I added, because apparently I enjoy detonating myself. His eyes shut for a second like he needed to reboot. She answered you, he said almost to himself. And she told you there was a night with cops. The room felt smaller by the second. I saw a record, I admitted, voice scraping against my own guilt. The one where it looks like you attacked someone at home. I watched those words hit him like solid objects. His shoulders rose and fell once, like he absorbed a punch. In that moment I expected shouting or denial. What I got instead was more chilling. He smiled, not happy, more like someone accepting a bad bet. Of course you found that before you heard my side, he said. That one sentence told me we were nowhere near the worst part yet. He moved to the chair before I could answer. His hands gripped the backrest like he needed support. For a second I thought he might walk out again. Instead he pulled it around and sat facing me. Tell me your side, all of it now. My voice cracked harder than I expected. He looked exhausted and not furious, which scared me more. You already trusted a file and her messages, he answered slowly. I did not trust them, I just panicked. Even as I spoke, I knew that sounded weak. He laughed once without humor and rubbed his face hard. You went behind my back and invited her, then dug through records, he continued. Hearing it listed like that hit harder than any yelling. I folded my arms to keep from shaking outright. If you want my side, you get it once, he said. After that, you do not get to pretend you did not know. He pulled out a CH. Aaron finally sat across from me. First ground rule, he went on. You cut her off completely now. The way he said it made my stomach twist around itself. Block her and delete her number, then ignore unknown calls. What if she reaches me at work or somewhere else? Then you tell me and you still do not speak to her. His eyes looked flat and certain and not open to debate. I nodded slowly, though part of me still clung to the old version of her. The file you saw is from one night in high school, he started. I came home and heard my brother screaming behind a closed door. I knew that sound, it was not fear of the dark. His voice shifted lower and my throat went dry listening. I forced the handle and saw him pinned on the bed. My mother's boyfriend had his hands on him and would not move. I grabbed him and pulled him off, and my brother ran to the corner. He swung at me, so I hit him back harder and he went down. My mother came in and saw him on the floor and me standing there shaking. She did not go to my brother, she went straight to him. He told her I attacked him for no reason, and she believed him immediately. She called the police, screaming that I had lost control and hurt them both. He paused there and rubbed his palms together like they still itched. I could not tell if he wanted comfort or distance. They locked me in the back of the cruiser while he stayed in the house. My brother watched from the window and I could not even wave at him. My chest ached in this weird tight way hearing that detail. I pictured some terrified kids staring down at a squad car at night. And yeah, I know I am just imagining, but it still punched through me. They wrote me up as the aggressor because she told them I snapped on them, he added. No charges in the end because they could not make it stick. But they sent me to anger counseling, and my mother nodded along. She told everyone her troubled son finally snapped on her kind partner. My brother stayed quiet because he thought it was his fault somehow. I realized my fingers were pressed so hard into my knees they hurt. Why did you never tell me any of this? I whispered. Because I wanted one person who knew me without that story attached, he answered. Because every time I shared it, people asked exactly what you just asked. Heat rose along my neck because he was not wrong about that. My very first instinct had been, is he dangerous? I hated that thought now, but I had still had it. I did not ask if you hurt him, I asked if you hurt someone, I tried to argue. And you saw the word assault and filled the rest in. His tone was not loud, that almost made it worse. Do you believe me now, or do you think I am spinning this? He asked. The question slammed into every ugly doubt I had let grow all day. I wanted to answer without hesitation, but my mind stalled out. If I said yes and meant it, he might forgive me someday. If I hedged at all, I knew something permanent would break between us. I believe you, I finally answered, and for once I meant it. He held my gaze for a long few seconds like he was checking. Some part of him must have seen what he needed there. His shoulders dropped a little, and he exhaled through his nose slowly. Okay, he said at last, and his voice sounded rough. Then we deal with the new problem you created. The phrase new problem made my stomach clench all over again in a fresh way. You invited her back into our lives, and she will not leave quietly. She will paint me as unstable or violent or controlling to everyone she reaches. She will especially target you because you have access to me. I thought about her messages and how quickly she had framed everything. How easily she had nudged me towards suspicion and away from him. My gut twisted for a different reason now because I saw my part. What do you want me to do besides block her? I asked. You warn your work and friends that she might reach out, he answered. You tell my sister if she tries anything public so we can push back. And you do not meet her alone no matter what story she feeds you. The word alone landed heavy because some reckless part of me had already considered it. I wish I could say I listened perfectly to that warning. I nodded and promised and meant it in that moment completely. But a few days later, curiosity and guilt teamed up again in my brain. That was when I agreed to see her without him, which is where everything truly went off the rails. I broke the rule in one line of text. Fine, one coffee, no promises. I hit send before I could hear his voice in my head. Her reply came back almost instantly. You won't regret this, I just want to clear the air. We met at a place far from our neighborhood. I picked it because I knew he never went there. My hands shook as I wrapped them around an empty mug. She walked in like she owned the room, not just the table. When our eyes met, she smiled like we were old friends. You look tired, dear, she opened, voice syrupy and bright. Been a rough week, I answered, keeping my back straight. Well, that's what happens when he explodes, she said, sliding into the seat. He didn't explode, I replied, my jaw tightening. He walked away from a trap he never agreed to. Her smile changed by a millimeter, barely noticeable if you did not watch. So he has already started turning you against me, she murmured. She reached across, fingers brushing my wrist like we were allies. I knew he would do that once you got close, she added. I pulled my hand back and let hers fall on the table. I know about the police report, I said, skipping any polite build-up. That got her attention faster than anything else. For the first time, she actually blinked instead of posing. What exactly did he tell you about that night, she asked. Enough to know who you protected, I answered, leaning in. She laughed short and sharp, then folded her arms. He always leaves out the part where he scared us, she said. He came in screaming and swinging at that poor man. The officer saw the damage he did, she continued, eyes on my face. And you think that sounds like someone safe to live with? I felt anger rise before I could swallow it down. He was stopping your boyfriend from putting his hands on a kid, I said. Her mouth tightened just enough to tell me I had hit center. You were not there, she replied, voice going flat. You have no idea what that boy was like back then. He was a teenager trying to keep his brother from getting hurt, I pushed. Your version makes that sound like a crime. She sighed like I was a slow student in her class. He twisted everything to make me the villain, she said. He always needed someone to blame when things went wrong. You called the cops on your own child, I said, each word edged. You let your partner stay while your kid rode in a cruiser. Her eyes flickered away, then snapped back to mine. I did what I had to do to keep my house together, she said. Sometimes you sacrifice one to save the rest. That line made my stomach turn in a way I cannot forget. You sacrificed the wrong one, I answered, voice low. He walked out and never came back because you chose a man over him. He walked out because he likes to play hero, she shot back. And you're just his latest audience. It hit me then how familiar her phrases sounded. Men are emotional. He performs pain. He needs loyalty. I realized she had fed me the same script from day one. I checked that record before I heard his full story, I admitted. I even wondered for a second if you were right about him. Her smile came back, smug now, almost triumphant. Of course you did, she said, fingertips tapping the table. You're intelligent, you see patterns. I also talked to his sister, I added, cutting that smugness in half. She remembers who locked who in which room. The tapping stopped just like that. My daughter always took his side, she muttered. That girl would excuse anything if it keeps the peace. She told me you lie when you feel cornered, I said. And that you chase anyone who has his ear. Her eyes sharpened in a way that made my skin prickle. So that's why he picked you, she replied, voice suddenly cool. Pretty soft, easy to work on. I laughed then, a short humorless sound that surprised us both. If I was easy to work on, we would not be having this talk, I said. I would still think you just wanted your son back. You think he wants you hearing this version, she asked, leaning forward. You think he wants you imagining him violent, even for a second. He told me everything anyway, I replied, not looking away. He told me why he grabbed that man and why he stayed quiet. Her expression twisted, half contempt, half panic. So now you feel noble for taking in damaged goods, she snapped. Is that it? You get to be the savior now. I felt something hard settle inside me right then. I am not a savior, I said. I'm a wife who blew it and is trying not to blow it again. And you are not coming through our door ever again. Her chair scraped back an inch as she pushed away from the table. You really think you can keep me away? She asked. You think he can erase me from his life like that? He already did, I answered, standing up too. I'm the idiot who tried to drag you back. That mistake is over as of this minute. She stared at me with open disgust, all sweetness gone. You will end up alone, she said, voice low and steady. He will turn this on you when he needs another villain. He did it with me, he'll do it with you. Check back in 10 years and tell me I was wrong. I grabbed my bag and did not look back at her again. My legs felt both shaky and weirdly solid as I walked out. Every step away from that table felt like peeling off something sticky. Once outside, I blocked her number before I reached the corner. For once, I did the boundary thing first instead of last. On the ride home, my brain ran worst-case scenes nonstop. Him finding out I had met her. Him packing a bag without yelling. Him deciding this proved I would always choose chaos. By the time I reached our street, my chest felt like a vice. He was on the couch when I walked in, not moving. The television was on mute, some random show flashing. He clicked it off as soon as he saw me. You smell like coffee, he said, eyes narrowing a little. Where did you go? My throat went dry, so honesty came out before spin. I met her, I said. In a public place in daylight, I needed to look her in the eye. His hand clenched on the cushion, knuckles pressing hard. I asked you for one thing, he replied, voice almost calm. I know, I said, words stumbling over each other. I needed to see if her story changed when I confronted her. And did it, he asked, watching me like he weighed every blink. Yes, I answered. And not in her favor. He leaned back slowly, like he was feeling every inch of the cushion. What did she tell you? He asked finally. That you scared them, that you attacked someone without reason, I said. That she had to call for help to keep everyone safe. And that you performed pain to keep people loyal. His jaw worked once like he chewed on glass. And what did you tell her? He asked. That you pulled a grown man off a child, I said. That she chose that man over both her kids. And that she does not get another shot at us. His eyes closed for a second and his shoulders shook. For a heartbeat, I thought he might be crying. When he opened them again, they looked strangely clear. So you finally believe me completely? He asked. Or are you still 50% on the fence? I believed you before I went, I answered, voice steady for once. I went to see how far she would go when cornered. And he asked, fingers loosening just a little. She went all the way, I said. She basically admitted sacrificing you to keep her life neat. He blew out a long breath that sounded like something leaving his body. I wish you had trusted me enough not to need that test, he said. That would have spared me this fresh round of panic. I know, I whispered, feeling the words land heavy. I know I broke that trust twice now. He pushed himself up and walked a slow circle around the room. Not pacing exactly, more like he did not know where to stand. When you invited her, you put me back in that house, he said. When you met her alone, you put yourself there too. And I got to sit here imagining it without any control. Hearing that last part felt like someone finally flipped the camera. I had been so busy watching my own fear that I missed his. I blocked her before I came back, I said. I will tell my job she is not welcome anywhere near me. And if she reaches out again, you hear about it first. He stopped walking and looked at me like he checked for cracks. I believe you about the blocking, he said after a moment. I am less sure about the never again part. That hurt because it was fair. He had actual evidence that I thought I knew better. So what now? I asked because I genuinely did not know. Now we get help, he said. Couples counseling, individual something. I cannot keep doing this alone in my head every time she surfaces. And I cannot keep wondering if my wife is my safest person. That sentence landed harder than anything else he had said all week. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. I want to be that person, I said. I just did a terrible job proving it. I'm willing to do the work if you are. He walked over and stopped right in front of me. For a second we just stood there, breathing the same air. Then he reached out and touched my hand, light but deliberate. This does not reset us to before dinner, he said. But it keeps me here while we figure out what comes next. We went to bed together that night for the first time in days. He lay on his side facing the wall, not curled into me like usual. I watched his back rise and fall and did not reach for him. I had grabbed enough things that were not mine to grab. Now I had to learn how to stay beside someone without dragging them backwards.